It started out as a simple quest. I went to Kuala Terengganu searching for the legendary boat builders, those craftsmen whose hands once shaped entire fleets with nothing more than wood, sweat, and tradition passed down through generations. On Palau Duyong, or Mermaid Island of all things, I expected to find the last stronghold of this craft, with a name that hints at myth and legend. It isn't quite the magical place it sounds like. What I found, which wasn't easy, were pieces of a forgotten world, the last remains and fragments of a once thriving art form teetering on the edge of extinction. The boatyards, where the master craftsmen once worked their magic, now seem more like graveyards. Where I thought would be a village of skilled artisans hard at work, instead, broken wooden hulls, tools rusted from neglect, and the eerie silence of an art form fading into the past. A mural of a cross-section, like an anatomy instruction manual, should someone stumble upon the treasure map and run with it. Shambles waiting to become museum artifacts or be swallowed by the sea, the jungle, or the sands of time. The old master had died, survived by his son, who isn't building boats. A second visit revealed it's now only a repair business on what's left of the old boats. The art of building from scratch, from memory, has almost vanished, and the pieces of what remains seem scattered, like a puzzle with too many missing pieces. It wasn't just the boatyards. So much of Kuala Terengganu felt like that. A city where time had stopped in places, where the past clung to the present, but only by a thread. A city on the edge of Malaysia's northeast coast, drifting between eras. Arriving in Kuala Terengganu, you might not be immediately impressed. It's not a city that dazzles at first glance. For most travelers, it's a quick rest stop on the way to or from Redang Island. And the sea is a constant presence here, shaping the lives of those who live by it, who work on it. It's in the food, it's in the stories, in the very fabric of this place. The South China Sea, vast, unpredictable, but always there, just like the city itself. The sea has always been both a giver and a taker, a source of life, but also of loss. And in Kuala Terengganu, that relationship is evident. The boats may no longer be built the way they once were, but the connection to the water remains, a link to a past that refuses to be forgotten. There's a duality here. There are ambitious projects here too, bold statements of progress, links between two sides of a city that's trying to redefine itself. On the one hand, you have places like Duyung Island, where the old world hangs on, where time feels like it's stopped. On the other hand, you have these grand, almost surreal projects like the gleaming Masjid Kristal, an ethereal structure of glass and steel rising out of the river like a mirage, a shimmering symbol of ambition and faith, a structure that could belong in any modern metropolis, and also a puzzle piece. It's beautiful, yes, but it almost feels out of place, like a beacon from a future that hasn't quite arrived yet. And then there's the drawbridge, a shiny new thing, proud and modern, a symbol of progress. It's impressive, sure, but it feels like a piece of the future dropped into a place that's still wrestling with its past. These grand projects stand in stark contrast to the rest of the city, where the weight of history, or at least the toll of time, is palpable. Without them, you'd almost think it could fall off the map entirely. It's a place caught between what it was, what it's trying to be, and yet somehow neither. Pasar Payang, once the lifeblood of Kuala Terengganu. There's a sense that time is catching up with this place, that the market is fighting to stay relevant in a world that's moving on. But even in this fight, Pasar Payang remains resilient. It's a place where the past and present meet, where tradition refuses to die, yet still alive, still vital. There's an unmistakable sense that the glory days are behind this place, and yet it endures. It's a quiet resilience, a reminder that even as the world changes, some things remain, even if only as shadows of what they once were. Amid the fading echoes of Kuala Terengganu's past, there are still places where the city's soul shines brightly, where beauty and tradition are not just preserved, but celebrated. Batik, the ancient art of dyeing cloth with intricate, hand-drawn patterns, is one such beacon. Each piece of batik tells a story of nature, of culture, of the human spirit. The process is slow, painstaking, but it's in this slowness that the magic happens. The wax and dye come together to form something that's both timeless and ever-evolving. A reminder that beauty doesn't fade with time, it transforms. Batik is more than just fabric. It's a symbol of the city's endurance, a burst of life in a place that might seem at times like it's breathing its last breath. It was so hard to make sense of it all. The contrasts, the broken pieces, the sense that time had simply passed Kuala Terengganu by. More than once, I found myself slipping into a dark place, where it felt like the city's fading heartbeat echoed my own feelings of being lost and untethered. This wasn't the romanticized version of travel. This was the raw, unvarnished side of the journey, the part that makes you question why you're even here. Just when I'd think I might be swallowed by the melancholy of it all, the unexpected kept happening. Human kindness. Every time I fell into these dark places, I would stumble, almost literally, into moments that brought me back. Someone would approach me and start talking, like we'd known each other for years. We'd share a meal together. They'd insist on giving me a ride across town. Market vendors would press their goods, their finest goods, into my arms, insisting I try them and refusing payment. Human kindness in its simplest form, these tiny gestures. But in those moments, they felt like lifelines. In the midst of all this complexity, all this change, it's the people of Kuala Terengganu that stand out the most. They're the ones who keep the city alive, who keep its spirit intact. Every time I felt like I was slipping away, there was someone offering me a gesture of goodwill. And these small acts of kindness, they're not grand, they're not flashy, but in a place like this, they mean everything. They're the threads that hold this place together, that keep it from falling apart completely. And it's in these moments, the shared meals, the quiet conversations, that you start to see the real Kuala Terengganu. Not the city of grand projects or crumbling history, but a city of people. People who are connected to their past, who are trying to find their place in the present, and who still believe in the simple power of human connection. The boat builders may be fading, the old ways slipping away, but the spirit that built them, one of patience, of craft, of kindness, it endures. And maybe that's the real story of Kuala Terengganu. It's not in the shining mosques or the crumbling shophouses. It's not in the modern drawbridge or the old boats sinking into the river. It's in the people, in the way they keep the pieces of their world together even when everything else seems to be falling apart. And in the way, when you least expect it, they reach out and pull you back from the edge, offering you a glimpse of something deeper, something truer than anything you might have been searching for. I came here looking for something tangible I could hold on to. I came looking for one story and found something completely different, an old world falling apart, but also small, beautiful moments of humanity holding it together. Kuala Terengganu got under my skin in ways I didn't expect. And as I leave, I realize I haven't found the answers I was looking for. But maybe that's the point. In the end, maybe that's what makes it special. It's not easily understood or neatly packaged. Some places aren't meant to be fully understood, but somehow that's part of the allure. You don't get a sense of closure. You just have to experience them, feel them, and accept that they will stick with you long after you've gone. Kuala Terengganu is one of those places, a city that might stay with you long after you've gone. A city that reminds you that the most important stories aren't always the ones you set out to find, but the ones that find you. It's a place that defies easy explanation, but maybe that's what makes it worth the journey. Because in the end, it's not just about the destination. It's about the people you meet, the moments you share, and the stories that stay with you long after the journey's end.